Hey guys, this is Kunal from TradingSim.com. I hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to do a trade recap on a parabolic stock that we were watching and trading yesterday. The ticker symbol is OPTT. This is a stock that's in play. This is one of those low float parabolic type moves that you see, a couple times a year, and these stocks are, moving up 1,000 to 2,000, sometimes even more. Percentage-wise. So these are very unique types of opportunities, but you got to be very careful because they can rip your shirt off if you're kind of chasing these stocks. And so I wanted to walk through this trade, how we prepared for it, and how we did trade it, and how you could have traded it. So let's just quickly take a look. We're going to start with the bigger picture, right? So we're going to look at the daily charts. You can see here. This is a pure momentum play, so don't look at this as a long-term investment or anything like that. This is going to be something that that's most likely going to be a pump and dump, right? These stocks get moved up really quick. They get ramped up really hard, and then the secondary offerings come in just so they can issue more stock, and then these stocks get eventually killed. But while they're running, you can definitely take advantage of that momentum and that volatility. And so, right, so we had a big gap in June. We had a massive explosion up. It retraced almost all of it, and then again, this stock, took that level out, and it made a massive run from, what is this, $3 up to about, 10. And so, when you look on the daily charts or the intraday charts, and you can see these two tops here, about 10.10, and then again around right around 987. So you can see 10 is a huge number for this stock, and if we get above that 10, the momentum, people are going to be chasing this. These day traders are going to come in and chase the momentum higher, and especially with low float stocks. Low float essentially means that there's not a lot of stock in circulation, and so you can, if there's volume, if there's a bid that gets into this, it can really take off and take off quickly. And so, I'm going to just kick this thing off, our simulation. And, we opened up, we gapped up to around 837. There's really nothing, you gotta, what we do is we set alerts. So I'm not going to be watching this all day. I'm cycling through many charts. I don't really have the time or the screen space to really keep this on, with the expectation that it runs a 1.5 higher. And so, we're going to keep an eye on this, but I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. Okay, so I just fast forwarded through the first 15 minutes of the day, and you can quickly see what happened here, right? It went from 8 to about 1068. So on the daily chart, we've taken this level out. This around 10 area, that was breached, and so now we're looking at a squeeze situation. And when you see setups like this where you have these long-tailed wicks, and then eventually these get broken out to the top side, there's a lot of people that went short that stock at that level, and so when that level gets taken out, right, you're going to have a lot of people covering, and it's going to be a very dangerous situation for shorts, especially in a high Momo play that has a low float. I mean, you can get your shirt ripped off real fast. And these stocks, as you will see, can run 20, 30, 50, 100% in a matter of a couple hours. And so so what we've seen here now is we've seen a legitimate break of that 10 area. Are we going to chase it on the initial attempt to break out? No, we're not. You can see from the open, this stock has basically nonstop rallied, and so this is extended, and I don't want to be chasing it. So I'm going to be looking for a consolidation around that $10 area, which is a major level in itself, right? That decade increment is a big number. And so what we want to see is this thing pause and consolidate and then we'll look for an entry. You know, we want to always enter into a low risk situation, right? If I bought on this break of 10, what is my stop? I really don't have a legitimate stop that gives me a low risk scenario. And so let's just go through this a little bit, right? So we're starting to see that pullback coming into that 10 area, right? Everything looks pretty bullish at this point. And so now what I'm going to be looking for, right, is that initial consolidation down to that 9 EMA. We talk about that a lot. That's a very, very high probability trade. You get these momentum stocks, they pull back to that 9 EMA, you look for a good setup at that level. You know, in this case, you know, a bull flag is forming, it appears, and, you know, it's holding that support at 10. Right, this is give or take where it is. And so what are we doing here, right? We're setting up potentially a bear flag. We're not going to chase this until we see a legitimate breakout above this flag area. All right. And there we go, right? So you would have gone long. Now, here's the thing with this one. I wouldn't have just bought it at the 1050 breakout. I would probably waited for these bars to clear here. These highs, right? You can see these wicks. That these are holding the stock back, and so there's some sort of resistance at those levels. And so, you know, right at around 1055 to the 1065 area, I would have waited for that to clear before I took a long entry. I know this stock, if it moves, it can really move, and so 1065 is where you want to be in. 1065 to 1070 is, you know, gives you some more confidence. You lose a little bit, but you get the confirmation that you need. And so this thing took off. Right at this point, there's really no. You just sit on your hands at this point, and now it's consolidating. Right, it hit 12, went long at around 1065. It went up to 12. And now this stock is starting to consolidate, and let's just see how it treats that 9 EMA, right? It's wicking here, but it's never closing below that 9 EMA, and so you know, and not only that, but it's holding this previous spike high, right? It just went back and tested it, and so, you know, the 9 EMA is a very good tool as a guidepost for you, but you can't use it in isolation, right? You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at, you know, price action and support and resistance levels, and so that's always why I say this isn't an art form. It's not a science, and so, you know, we held that level, starting to create a rounding bottom again. You really above 12, you could really add to the position. I didn't do that, but you could have. And there you go again, right? Now this stock is getting a little parabolic at this point. And so what I would do, especially with something like, I just pull it up to the 1 minute chart. Now what are you going to be looking for, right? If it's parabolic, you want to be looking for blow off volume, a blow off expansion bar, and then a reversal off of that. That's going to be your indication that this stock has pretty much had it and it's done. I believe this stock was halted at this level here, and so that's exactly what happened, right? It's sort of taking off. I think there was a halt because of the price acceleration that occurred, and this was the opening of that halt. So we hit about 400,000 shares on this stock right here after that halt, and then we had a big retracement right there. What I would have done here, if I saw that type of blow-off move, the low there was around 1377. I would have been stopped out below that. I would have been looking for an exit when I saw that type of accelerated volume, especially after a halt. Those things just I don't like to be in a stock that's being halted. That's you're just opening yourself up to significant amounts of risk. You can't prevent it all the time, obviously, but I would have been out of this thing. Probably around this 1350 to 1375 area. But let's just see what it continued to do the rest of the day. Right now you're starting to see some large red bars coming in. This is another sign that this thing has pretty much had it for the day. We kind of double topped here, another big reversal bar. There's some sellers coming into this. Volume slightly picked up there. So let's just put it back to the 5-minute charts. We still haven't broke the 9 EMA on the 5-minute chart. So theoretically, you could still be in this thing. It's still continuing to hold. Now there you start to see a breakdown, right? So this previous low, 1364, where the 9 EMA is starting to bow. Again, that's a sign that you want to think about, scaling out. And there we go. That's pretty much it. You had that pullback. It consolidated at 9 EMA. It was basically a bear flag on the intraday. This little spike here up to 1489 couldn't take out the previous high of 15 here, which was another spike that was sold into. So we have essentially a double top and then a breakdown through support. I'm just going to drag this trend line up now since we're done with that. Right, and then we kind of sold off here. We're a little past midday. So, as you can see, the stock became pretty choppy after that blow off top. So you always want to be very cautious of these types of these moves. I mean, look at this thing went from 12 all the way up to 16 nearly, a $4 move in about 15 minutes on a $12 stock. That is a significant rip that when you see that type of stuff, it's going to create a consolidation. There's just no question about it. These things will never continue in that way for extended periods of time, and so this is out of character. This type of bar is out of character when you compare it to the sizes of these bars, and the volume that started pouring in is very, very significant. And so, these are the bars that are, squeezing the shorts. The longs are the smart money is selling into these types of moves, right? And so, this high, which eventually ends up hitting 1565, that's going to be a significant point of resistance, not only for the rest of the day, but for the foreseeable future. Right, and so we just basically did a whole lot of nothing after that initial drop from that move. It's wild price action, but in respect to the entire move here, it's just chop. And it's very quick, and so you really got to have these types of setups, right? You got to see these, especially in the morning, right? Towards the end of the day, as we've talked about many times, is after lunch these stocks tend to fizzle out, and so you want to kind of be done with your trading before about 11:30 to 12. But anyways, I hope that that was helpful. If you have any questions, email us at admin@tradingsim.com, and wish you the best of luck.